Well, hey guys, Bart from Bicycle Rider YouTube. Are you thinking about purchasing an e-bike for Christmas or purchasing an e-bike for someone for Christmas? Well, let me tell you, I think that's a fabulous idea, but from someone that has extensive experience in the bicycle retail realm, and someone who is a professional e-bike mechanic, let me in this video discuss a few key points that you should know before you make that purchase. So, first of all, let me just say that I have had many years as a bicycle shop owner, someone who promoted e-biking. A lot of times people ask me, hey Bart, because they know I'm a cyclist, hey Bart, what do you think about e-bikes? Well, I love e-bikes. I love what it does to people's lifestyles. So if you're thinking about purchasing an e-bike for Christmas, believe me, you're down the right path. But if you don't have some of the inside knowledge that I have as both a bicycle salesman and a professional e-bike mechanic, then stay tuned for this video, and I'm going to go over a few things why I think you should listen to this video and get educated on the e-bike. And of course, there's so much to go over. This is just going to be basically on a couple topics. It's going to be on your consumer direct e-bikes like this one right now, what the short-term cost is, what the long-term cost, and what you can expect out of that e-bike. And also your bicycle shop quality e-bike, maybe some of your difference between some of your name brands like Trek, Specialized, Giant, Cannondale. Like I said, to start with, I think you're going down the right path. I see how e-bikes change people's life in a positive way. And I just want to make sure that in the end, you're happy with your bike and you have realistic expectations on what you're going to get. So this is one of my personal e-bikes. This is a commuter style city type of e-bike that I picked up a couple years ago. And as someone who's owned a bike shop and had a lot of e-bikes in my fleet, this was not my only e-bike. This is not the one bike that does it all. But what it does a good job of fitting into a small space. As far as this will fold. It's a smaller type bike with smaller wheels. And it let me commute back and forth to work quite a bit. Not all the time, but quite a bit. It also let me run a lot of short errands around the shop very efficiently. So I knew when I was buying this bike, and I did get this bike myself, that's the purpose of this bike. Of course, I have e-mountain bikes, and at the time I had a whole fleet of e-bikes that I could ride around. Performance style e-bikes, fast e-bikes, road bike e-bikes, mountain bike e-bikes. I sold Aventon. Aventon is a good brand. They have basically a lot of e-bikes in their line for different purposes, but most of them are for that everyday citizen who wants a bike to go explore and have adventures on, and couples that want to have these e-bike dates. Believe me, it works. It can get you, it's the boredom killer like you'll never have. But I also, as an e-bike mechanic, a lot of times I would take customers' e-bikes home with me for longer test drives. When you're an e-bike mechanic, sometimes it's hard to diagnose a problem or see if you fixed a problem with a short test ride around the shop. I was about 7 miles away from the shop, so within 7 miles I could get bearings hot, I could get brakes hot, I could get motors hot, I could get controllers hot, I can get displays hot, and really test those e-bikes out. But that is going over and above. I was the shop owner, so I took the liberty, and I would always discuss it with my clients first. Hey, I'm going to take your e-bike home with me tonight to make sure it gets a good test ride. I couldn't do that all the time, and sometimes I wanted to ride my regular bike or I had other things to do. So this is the purpose I bought this bike for, is just to have a little go-getter. And I wanted something that was personally mine and not attached to the shop. So now that I don't own the bike shop anymore, I'm going to make a whole nother video about that, how repairing these e-bikes are not profitable for bike shops. So don't get mad at them when they say they won't fix it if they didn't sell it. I was that guy who fixed a lot of e-bikes that I didn't sell and didn't make a profit, and now I've lost my bike shop. That's not the only reason. The bike shop industry is having problems in 2025. But the e-bike, even though it is getting a lot of people into biking, is not profitable to fix if it's not something that you're a dealer of. So a lot of these e-bikes are, when I say direct to consumer, you're buying it directly from a website, a manufacturer. They ship that bike to you, and then it's in your hands basically to do the final assembly, to do the maintenance, to do, you know, to take care of it. If you do have a warranty issue, a lot of these companies you have trouble getting through to. When I first did the review on this bike, and you can look at a couple years ago, and I don't mean to say good or bad about Ride One Up. I think as far as direct consumer brands, they're probably one of the better brands to deal with. I'm personally having some problems with this bike right now, and as a professional e-bike mechanic, I wasn't able to just call them. Although I did see a phone number, it's just no one answered when I called. But I sent an email, and within, you know, a few hours I had a response, and basically I'm asking if I could buy a few parts for this bike outside of the warranty window, because it's not in warranty right now. And so I didn't ask them to diagnose my problem or whatnot. I know what the problem is. It's got a bad motor, so I let the bike sit up too long without using it, and the planetary gears in there froze up. Rather than me taking this thing apart and trying to fix the planetary gears, it's just not worth my time and effort. I just want to buy a new whole wheel assembly. And luckily Ride One Up surprisingly said they have it. They have it in stock. It's about 200 bucks. So now I've got to make up my mind if I want to put $200 into this e-bike, which is a $1,000 e-bike basically. I've got a couple years of use on it, but literally less than 500 miles on it. And like I said, I am definitely not bashing Ride One Up. I think they're one of the better direct-to-consumer companies. It's just these things go bad. You know, they're like anything mechanical, electronic, there can be problems. There can be corrosion in cables. I mean, there's so many ways to diagnose this. And I do have a background in electronics beyond being an e-bike, former e-bike mechanic. So, you know, I know how to use a voltmeter and a scope, and I understand how to ohm out a wire. I do have an extensive background in electronics, which definitely helps segue me into being a professional e-bike mechanic. But you have to be able to work on the mechanical side and the electronic side, and with a lot of direct-to-consumer brands, there's not a whole lot of support for the bike shop, so it turns into a lose-lose situation. So like I said, sticking up for local bike shops that decide to turn these jobs down, believe me, it's not because they don't want to help you, it's because they found out it's not profitable. And that is real, because I definitely have felt the effects of running an unprofitable business. I'm going to do more videos about that. But let me just tell you about when you do order something direct to consumer. You know, a lot of these websites are really good. They've got great pictures. You know, they give you a lot of text on the motor specs and information like that, and then you see the reviews, and a lot of the reviews are good. You know, as someone who saw problems after the fact, after someone has owned the bike for 6 months, 8 months, a year, where they're not getting support out of their direct-to-consumer company anymore. Of course, where do you bring it? You bring it to the bike shop. Well, bike shops are figuring out that these are not profitable repairs. It's expensive to repair an e-bike and have the equipment to repair an e-bike, and educate your bicycle mechanics on e-bike procedure. And in the end, everybody wants cheap repairs because you bought a $1,000 e-bike. You don't want a $500 bill. Like I said, I can fix a lot of this stuff myself, but even as a professional e-bike mechanic, I don't have all afternoon to diagnose the problems. I know what's wrong, and I just want the replacement part. Ride One Up has this replacement part. I think $200 is reasonable for a wheel assembly and a motor. You can buy just the motor alone, but then you have to have it laced into a wheel. I can lace wheels all day long, but if you can't, just realize that that's a art in itself to relace a motor in a wheel. There's a lot of labor and skill involved in that. And then you have the liability afterwards. So that's another thing about, you know, being a professional repairman, is I can be liable for anything that happens after the fact. And when you didn't sell this bike in the first place, so you didn't make that bit of margin, you know, that you make when you sell a bike, and believe me, when I say a bit, there's not a whole lot of margins in these things. So if they, you know, come back a few times with issues, and most of the time they do, you've pretty much eaten up your margin and labor. Once again, for another video, I'm trying to warn people or enlighten people, when you're buying these things for Christmas off an internet site, maybe call up the customer service number and ask for a part and see if they can help you with a part, because that gives you a good idea if they're going to pick up the phone in the first place, if they're going to have parts, if they're going to have someone on the other side of the phone that can speak the same language that you guys understand each other. I do think that the e-bikes are changing the world in a much better aspect. It's getting people outside, it's getting people living life, it's adventure, it's fossil fuels. I mean, there's so many advantages to this thing, but the repair side of it has not caught up to the selling side of it yet. And that's where you've got to be careful about your direct-to-consumer bikes. Now, if you do have a local bike shop and they sell e-bikes, walk in there and ask them if they will repair something that they don't sell. Like I said, please don't get mad at them if they say no, because they've learned their lessons, and they're learning their lessons the hard way from other bike shops that have had a hard time with that. So people say, you know, when I was having trouble with my shop, people are like, man, why don't you start repairing e-bikes? Well, I did, and it was a lost leader. It's hard to repair these things economically when there's so many variables in the situation. And then like I say, once you touch it, that it's yours forever. Even now that I don't have a shop, I have more people calling me up asking me if I'll repair their e-bikes. I've been staying in campgrounds, and when people find out I'm an e-bike mechanic, boy, everybody's got problems. And customer service over the phone sometimes isn't the best way to, you know, find solutions to your problem. So walk into your local bike shop, see what they sell. And a lot of people say, well, Bart, I would have bought a Trek e-bike from you or a Specialized e-bike from you, but they were too expensive. Well, in the long run, if you spend $1,000 on something, you get 500 miles out of it, and all of a sudden you've got something broke, and you have to bring it to some place to get repaired. Most places aren't repairing these. For a while there was a lot of pop-up shops that came up, you know, in people's garages and stuff, but people started finding out that was a pain too, because they all come back when you got someone knocking at your house all the time. You know, hey, can you fix my bike again? It broke again. Or the liability afterwards, because as soon as you take money for repair, you're a professional. A lawyer can use that against you if something happens. That's, once again, there's so many ways to talk about this subject, but even a lot of people told me, hey, Bart, I would have bought a Trek, but it didn't have a throttle. You know, so a lot of the bike shop quality bikes are going to be a different type of bike than you're getting on this. This is a throttle with a hub drive motor, something that's $1,000. When you're looking at that under $2,000 price point, basically that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a hub drive motor hooked to bicycle components, hooked to electronics, and they're not going to be the highest end quality. But what do you expect out of $2,000? Don't expect a diamond when you paid, you know, granite price. And believe me, a lot of people have never spent $2,000 on a bike. So, you know, all of a sudden, when I say $2,000 is a budget friendly, they're like, oh my gosh, how much do bikes cost? Well, believe me, when you own a bike shop, you see the $7,000, $10,000, $13,000 bikes, and yes, a lot of those are worth it. They're coming with Bosch motors, they're coming with Shimano motors, diagnostic tools for the e-bike repairman. You know, there's not a whole lot of diagnostic tools on these. Sometimes you can, you know, diagnose a battery, but try to get a replacement battery or a connector, or, you know, if you solder a wire that's burnt out, believe me, there's a lot of liability in soldering a wire on someone's e-bike. Brakes, even think when people crash and trying to find replacement parts that fit the bike. Of course, you can get a brake to work, but you got to get a brake that works with this motor cutoff switch that's for safety, and you don't hook that up. There's a lot of liability in that. So just know, take my advice and walk into your local bike shop. Walk into a reputable bike shop, not a pop-up shop that came into the mall for Christmas season. Look and see what they have on the floor. Ask them what their reputation with that company is. Look for some of the name brands. I mentioned Aventon earlier. And I've sold a lot of Aventon bikes. And I had a lot of customers bring those bikes back with problems, and Aventon usually had their back. So as a e-bike repairman, I know that Aventon was hard to deal with on my side, and there wasn't much money in warranty work from Aventon. So once again, I'm not cutting down Aventon. I think Aventon's probably one of the better direct consumer brands as well. They've gotten big really quick, so they're trying to catch up with their customer service, but they actually do use Bafang motors and good controllers. I'm not here to say one brand is better than the other, but I'm just saying that there is a difference between your bike shop brand, your name brand, and your direct consumer brand. Be careful what you buy. I want to help people. I am doing a bike buying guide as someone that knows the inside. Believe me, there's so many companies that want to send me bikes to review their bikes, and I don't want to put my reputation on a lot of those bikes. Even when I originally did the video on this bike, I said, hey, don't call my bike shop if you buy this bike because I said it's a pretty good bike for $1,000. You know, don't call my bike shop and complain to me if it doesn't work. Like, I'm not really endorsing this brand. I was endorsing basically $1,000 e-bike that can do a lot of things good, but it's not your all-in-one bike for everything. Be careful what you buy. You know, when I say $1,000 and I treat that lightly, believe me, I don't have a job right now, so $1,000 is a lot of money to me. But owning a bike shop, you see a lot of $1,000 carbon fiber wheels. You know, like, you got to put it in perspective what you get. You're getting a whole bike, a lot of machining, a lot of electronics, a lot of raw materials, and you're getting it shipped to your door for $1,000. Be happy if you get a year out of it. Be happy if you get, you know, some enjoyment out of it, but it's not going to be your lifetime bike, and you're probably not going to be able to get it fixed at your bike shop. So it's going to end up in a landfill. That's why I'm having a dilemma with this. Do I fix it and keep using it? Personally, I don't know if the battery's going to go next, if the brakes are going to go next, or what. So for what I originally purchased this bike for, and getting 2 years of pretty good use and letting friends use it, I'm going to say that it's did what it's supposed to do. But then again, there's a lot of stuff getting ready to go into a landfill, you know, and I have a problem with that. Or when people buy the direct-to-consumer bikes, shipping them back if it's not what they think. There's a lot of materials that go into shipping a bike and then shipping it back. So just remember, returns are not always the solution in the grand scheme of things. When you start thinking about the cost of the earth, you know, there's a lot of transportation equals fuel equals labor. You know, there's so much to it. So just don't go buy something thinking, well, it's got a 30-day unconditional guarantee. If I don't like it, I'm going to ship it back. There's a much bigger picture. If everybody buys these things and ships them back 30 days later, just think what that does for the environment. I mean, just packing these things, there's so much material and plastic and foam. You'll see when you get these things out of the box, and that all ends up in a dumpster somewhere. That's not good. Let's think about the planet a little bit. Hey guys, I just noticed it's getting dark out here. You guys probably can't even see me anymore. I'm going to do many more videos before Christmas on an e-bike buying guide from a legitimate expert in the field. From the high-end e-bikes to the wallet-friendly e-bikes to the junk. I have seen it all walk through my bike shop, my former bike shop, and I'm glad to share that information with you. So if you like what I do, Bart the Bicycle Rider, I'll try to start my video a little bit earlier next time, so I don't run out of daylight. Stay tuned. Watch more before you spend your money, and I'll help point you in the right direction. Thanks, guys.